so I was saying I was going to go and make another gasket for the front camshaft kind of flange or cap, whatever you want to call it. So what I find with parts like this that have a part sticking out, I get the measurement on your vernier, I have it, and then I measure it on one of these, and that's all I did there with that. I just literally halved it and just ran it around and then cut it out with a sharp knife. The likes of the holes there for the studs, all I do is I put in a small spanner, use the end and just give it a little turn like that, and it starts marking it. And then for the outside you can use that, but because this is aluminium rather than metal or cast iron or anything like that, I find you just want to mark it with that. It rarely cuts it because you'll only end up damaging it, putting a burr on it. So sometimes the best thing to do is to, because this actually has to fit in to the pump, you don't want the gasket too thick, otherwise it's going to make your life hard trying to get it fitted. So I cut it at a bit of an angle inwards to make sure that it's definitely not overhanging. I use my fingers then to keep everything still. Put your fingers on top of them holes there and it helps just keep everything centralized. So it's just a matter of taking your time. I'll just angle it slightly inwards and it won't overhang, it won't be too wide. It does help when your knife is sharp. This has gone a little bit rusty. You like playing the tin whistle, you have to cover holes with your fingers. So just slightly angled inwards, and it shouldn't be too wide because I plan to fit this to the pump first. I think that's going to be the safest, because if it fitted to this plate here and we take the plate off, what happens is it actually rips it if a stud catches on it. Like basically what already happened. Okay, so there we go. So there's nothing too shabby about that. So carefully take it off, poke through that bit of gasket there. Lovely. Now we'll bring it over to the pump. So the plan is to fit this to the pump, and I'm not going to use any form of gasket, goo, sealant, silicone, whatever you want to call it. Just going to basically use grease. I just want to make sure that it fits in. If it's a little bit too wide, I want to correct it. Yeah. So it's very, very slightly too wide, the likes of there. So I might just get a scissors. I'm just going to trim it a little bit, put it back on the plate and just trim it. So what I do with that is, now that we're down to actually having it cut out, put it back on the part like so. And you can get a file if you want and run the file at a bit of an angle, or you can just basically continue and shave a little bit off. Sometimes this works just as good to help just shape it up the last little bit. See, it's just shaving there, and that's all you want, because we want this part to fit snugly in, because it's going to keep the end float to a minimum on the cam if it's sitting right where it's meant to be. It's one of them things you won't really notice if there's too much end float. So you have to kind of do these little, make this a little bit more of an effort to make sure that everything's going to fit together snugly. Okay, so we'll try it again. Sometimes little bits like that end up folding down behind, so just make sure that's not happening. If it does happen, put it upside down and just run your knife the other way, and you should catch it easy enough. There's plenty of gaskets there, so it's worth shaving a bit off to stop any of this happening, because this is thick enough paper like so. Right, so we'll try that. Let's make sure there's no little small little stringy bits there. There's a certain amount of satisfaction in making your own gaskets. Okay, let me see. Just want it to go in nice and easy. You can see there straight away there's still a little bit too much in one place there. So I'm just going to try and nip him here. Okay, anywhere there's a little bit sticking up, we'll try and get him down, because you'll be surprised. We're talking a couple of thou of an inch, but when you're going to the bother of putting on new bearings onto your camshaft, you're going to want everything to be perfect for another 70 odd year. So just a little trimming is all it takes. Little scrape around in there, make sure there's no dirt. The Dremel was great, and of course I took out all of them studs. So I think that's good enough to go. So a little bit of grease. You can nearly apply some on here first, just in case we have to take this off again. Hopefully we don't. It'll be a lot easier to take off if it's greased. And we can rub a bit on here as well. This is nice grease, this, you know, whatever the hell it is. It's lovely. Right, that's it. No, it only goes on one way. Okay. A little bit of a crease in it there. Now, that should be Cade Fawn Gate, 100%. Okay. Now we want to just check and count out. So let's give a quick look at him. He's after ripping as well, as you can see there, but I don't think it's going to be as bad. And again, that was the same mistake I made, taking off the casing there, and this still on the casing, and of course it just pulled this or caught him under the threads, and that's all it takes. That is on the, it's up above there. I might make another one, because I know I can make a better job of it. So if this is ripped, where is it ripped? There. I have to make sure there's good thickness there. So there seems to be good thickness there. There's not the same amount of thickness there, which isn't ideal. It's after getting, the knife just went in. I might just try and improve this one a bit because there's nothing worse than when these leak. And the problem is when these leak, these caps, and I think mine's leaking on the one over there, when you try and take it off, you have all of them force springs pushing down on the cam followers, on the cam, and if you do get this off, they'll junk, the whole cam will go down, and you'll have great fun trying to get this cap back on. So I suppose the best thing to do is to try and get the likes of your gas right first time. I'm just not happy with it there, so I'm going to make another one of them. I just think it's going to be the best bet, just like we did with the other one. Slip of the knife is all it takes, and you could end up with a leak, and that's fine if it's only a matter of taking off the plate. But the fact we have camshaft nerve running it, it's not worth taking that chance. Okay, so I'm going to go and start doing that here, and sure, I'll hit the record button if there's anything interesting. Okay, so for this one here, the same story. Make sure that the vernier is zeroed off. Open her up. It should be the same. 40. Yeah, about 40. Same. Other one was around 46 as well. So bring her back to 23. Near enough, 23. Tighten her up. I think this is set because I already did it. Yeah, so that's already set. So what we do then is just roughly centralize it here and make sure we have enough all around. Okay. I think I come out with a hole today. Okay. And there you go. That's your hole roughly. Okay. And then you just basically start cutting here with your knife. As you can see, this has just gone too rusty, so it takes too much pressure, and that's what happened before. So we'll try another one here. If not, I'll change the blade. It's thick enough gasket paper now as well. And just basically take your time. It can be awkward to correct the inside circle. It's not as awkward to correct the outside circle. You can use a scissors, or you can use the edge of the part as a reference. Inside, you just have to try and do your measurements right the first time. The fact I had the compass set already helps. It's my technical drawing in school as a head off. Sure, there's another way of doing this. People, I suppose, that are in the trade for years would know exactly. It's just the fact these are aluminium parts, kind of aluminium alloy. You can't really go baiting them too much with a spanner to try and get the imprint of the part on to the gasket paper, because it will damage it. So that's snug enough, right? So then what I do is take a look for where one of the holes is for the studs, give it a little twist, and you start seeing the imprint. Put your finger in it and that'll kind of keep it steady. There's another one. or the Wehrstock on. So hold that with your other finger. Count Ella. So the last one there. Give it a twist. What that seems to do as well is it kind of holds the gasket paper where you want it to be. And then you can get a heavier spanner. This actually ratchet one is good because there's a bit of extra weight in it. And you can just give it a tap around. And you start seeing the shape. If you keep tapping, it starts tearing. Yeah, it's sure is satisfying. And it starts tearing. Okay. Okay. So now you get your sharp knife and kind of try cut them stud holes out. Making sure you're going wide enough, because if you don't go wide enough, you'll have to come back and correct it again. And you have to make sure, of course, to keep them lined up, otherwise your holes will be off. This is where you can tear the gasket right out to the outside, and you'll have to do it again. So this knife isn't very sharp, and it can grab the paper and rip it. So you just have to take your time. So yeah, it's coming together there now. Just two more of the holes, and then we'll create now. It does get thin out towards the edge there, so just gonna make sure that you don't rip it. Looking good so far, we're nearly there. Okay. There you go. So there's probably a bit of trimming to be done here. I like to say that lad there, considering this has to fit in to the pump. So line them up roughly again. The hole there just needs a final little clean out. A final little shaving. Yeah, little final. cleaning off. It is better being too big and too small, but you have to make it fit before you're done, before you try and fit it. All depends on what angle you hit it with the spanner as well. There's the bio there in the corner. We want to get him shaved down. Okay, so that is a little slip of the knife at the start there, but it's not going to make a difference because it's nice and thick there, and it's not going to make a difference at all to it. Okay, so we'll just see roughly how this fits. There's a little bit more cleaning to be done or what. There's a little bit of a stringy lad there that'll have to go. Okay, so one of these is narrow and one of them is wide. Wide at the bottom. We want this to fit in nice and neat. It's a little bit big there, a little wide at that corner there, so that will hold. That will hold everything out a little bit, and as I said, we've new bearings on our cam, and this is holding the outer race, so it has to close snugly. So we don't have any end float. So a little bit shaving off there should help. Okay, any of them lads there as well that might need a trimming, picking off. Now is the time to do it. You'd be surprised how thick they can be. Okay, so we'll try that again. That should be roughly it. If it was just a plate, I wouldn't be bothering doing this. Well, maybe. Not to this extent, anyway. So it's still just a little bit big. As you can see, it creases when it's big. Yeah, we'll see now. It looks like it's going to cause issues. Probably not. Yeah, that's perfect. Just don't want any big. You'd be surprised what a crease, what an actual crease would do. It would affect your bearing. Because it's thick paper, like. So if you put a crease in it and you're doubling the thickness in one place, it's not going to be great. Not ideal. Okay. There we go. That should be perfect. A gasket is meant to seal, so you don't want a gasket to be the reason for a leak. I suppose that's the way you can look at it. So sometimes it's the simplest little things like that that can make all the difference in the world. But I've learnt my lesson. You fit the gaskets to the pump, not to the plate. That if you take out the plate, catch the side of the gasket on one of them threads or two, and you keep pulling and grip. Okay, so we're another step closer. That was something I said I'd do. Something else I said I'd do is make 2 more of these and not be messing with our coil brackets, and we'll have them for the future then. Oh, I just threw in some of the delivery valve holders there. Well, the injector pipe kind of fittings there. I want to just, since I'm still waiting on one part, I made 2 more tools for holding the, you see them there, the 2 outside ones for holding the springs up. And that's keeping all our elements and barrels and all of that where they're meant to be. So our bit of see the shiny epoxy there, kind of a chemical metal is doing its thing there. So it's just important that that's sealed, because that is where the diesel can leak into the rack, and then you have all sorts of problems. It's not a big deal taking it all off and all that, but you know yourself, timing and all of that. If you have all of that done and done right, so these things are interesting little parts now. They screw in there, and then the bolt that holds on the backing plate screws into them as well. So they're interesting little parts. So we're doing that wrong. So what we have to do first is put it on. And sometimes I make the mistake of just putting it there, and that side there catches it, and you think it's tight, and you try to put it on your plate, and these are sticking out too far, and it doesn't tighten your plate. So it's designed to sit in there without any washer at all. So I think it's meant to be that way, roughly. So you need a long reach for that. I think it's a 3/8 is what I have here. So we'll get the 3/8. A long reach, no, it's actually not. It's a 1/2 inch drive. Of course, I can't find my 1/2 inch socket. But anyway, we'll leave that there for a minute. I'll get this side done here. These were all just cleaned and blown out with the air gun because there's a bit of dirt in there. I think they kind of sit like that. And they tighten in, and these are always loose. So we'll just get our socket for that, and we'll come back then when we're ready to tighten them. Okay, these are a strange size. So I have a 13mm on here, and it just barely catches it. So I'm going to change to a 14mm, as I don't have Imperials. That's what it turned out to be, 17mm. Well, that's not the one. Well, 14. So we'll grab a 14 and see, does that grip it a little bit better. But I remember before this being a strange, yeah. And they literally bottom out, like, they just tighten and just end. So that's basically the way, all you need to do. Then we have to fit filter, Spaco. There's your part number. These are 1 piece. The originals are 2 piece. So we'll just cut this open. I think it's better having the 1 piece as well. Less chance of dirt going down between filters. And that'll fit in there. Just make sure that it's all inside the frame, all around, underneath, all of that. And it is. So we can go ahead and do this job on the filters, fitting the filters, because I just don't want to go rebuilding the rest of the pump just yet, because, as I probably mentioned, I have to get one of them screws there that's missing there in, and that locates the barrel. So I can quickly take that apart when it comes. Okay, so that's that. So now we just get the back of the filter housing. There's your bolt, and that is that lad there. Give him a bit of a flattening. I could probably flatten him a little bit more, so I'm going to do that now. To do warp, obviously. So for that, what I like to do is that was just some plate I was using to make 2 more of them tools for the back of the holding down the springs. So. Yeah, slowly cut it. Nearly there. Doesn't have to be perfect. The gasket will take a lot of it. And that's probably good enough. I don't want to go crazy on it. If it's leaking, we take it off again. In fact, what I do is I test them before I fit them, the actual pump. I'm able to prime up the fuel system, pressurize the fuel system with the lift pump. And if it's leaking, let's give that a quick clean out in there. If it's leaking, you'll see there and then. And you'll be able to just take off the back again and do it. But to get all of that out completely is going to take a serious amount, because it's coming off here and here as well. Alright, we have a bit more cleaning to do. Yeah, so we'll give that. I might get the Dremel at that actually. That's probably the best idea. Yeah, so we'll come back. We have the Dremel ready to go, and we'll just give that a quick clean. I can't emphasize how handy these Dremels are. Especially on aluminium. Like, they're just not harsh at all, and they just get the job done. Lovely to use. I'd never be without one. Okay, so that's that. We made up a bit of a gasket. I always make these a little bit too big, because you can always pare around there with a knife if you have to, but being honest, it doesn't make any difference because you're not going to see it. So just make sure you have enough gasket paper. Cut a bit of dirt there or something. I'm going to give that a little rub. Lovely. Okay, so I suppose the best thing to do with these is just a bit of grease, so that if you remove the gasket again, I might grease the back of it instead. If you remove the gasket again, it'll most likely come off without tearing and ripping and all of that. And you can actually go and grease up the whole lot because the gasket is pushed against all of it, but I just prefer to just grease a small bit there just on the outside. Just give it a quick rub of it. So this is not really shaped perfectly on the outside, because I do like to have plenty of paper on it. Then we have these flathead bolts, but before we do that, jumping the gun, we have to fit the front on these. So that's going to involve fitting on the bracket, pushing it in, and this is actually a surprisingly tight fit. These are a really good filter, as in they do fairly squeeze there into place, and that does help, of course, with keeping the dirt out. There's a little click you want to hear. Same with the other side. Okay. It's handy if you have someone else just to press them, because I can tell you one thing, there's a fair amount of pressure needed to get them lined up. You need them at the end of the pliers as well, otherwise the pliers itself is held out. You just make sure then that they're good and tight, and that when you push them in, that you can kind of spin the circlip a little bit. Yeah, it's that way you know it's actually, it's this one must have been on the inside. You can see the years of whatever sort of a reaction it had to the fuel and the dirt and everything. Okay, so we can just put a little skim of that there around. Don't want to go dirty in the gaskets too much if I can get away with it. Well, not the gaskets, the filters. Don't want to dirty them, but just want to put a bit of that on. If things are leaking, you might just be able to reuse the gas. It'll come off nice and easy. Okay, that's all looking nice and neat. So I'm just going to pause and take a picture of that, actually, just for my own reference. Okay, so let's get this back on. Don't think it matters what way it is. If there's an up or a down, it looks to me to be the exact same, so whatever really suits. Just make sure sealing wash is on. I might reuse them because I know they're kind of a fibre washer, and if it leaks, sure, look, all we do is we take it off. They're a nice kind of a fibre washer. We'll see. I have heard some people in the diesel injector pump trade saying that the right one is a fibre washer. So tighten them up. I don't know why people didn't just weld on little nut heads. It would make things a lot easier, but I suppose there's not a great amount of space behind this and the block. Depending on your timing as well, it can bring it closer to the block. But look, that's good enough. We can pare all of that off if we're happy that it's not leaking. The main thing is we can see a bit of grease around that, so if it does have to come off again, I do have to make a gasket for the front as well, so I'll do that. And yeah, we'll show how to make that. I probably again should have done it before I put in the studs. That would have made the most sense, and I'd had a nice flat surface to work on. But look, well, I've done these before, so I'll record the making of the gasket for the flange in the front, and we'll see where we go to next.